Melissa's.
This is the Red Hot Reds podcast. Here are your hosts, Ricky Logan and Roger Straz.
Welcome to the Red Hot Reds podcast. It is Sunday at 8 p.m. ish, and we are live. And if you caught the intro, Ricky is masterful again yet with a great intro with a bunch of new clips to show off. Basically, it's a new season. The 2026 season is upon us, folks. We are ready to rock and roll. We're really appreciative of all you guys that are tuning in, all the subscribers that have subscribed in the last 30 days. We're really appreciative of that. We're trying to get bigger and better, and we're even expanding in terms of our shows and all that. Tonight, we are covering our predictions for the predictions for the 26-man opening day roster. I almost got caught up because Monday show, just as a programming note, we have the first episode dropping of Minor League Mondays. It's going to be our top 30 prospects. It's going to be recorded. We already got it in the can, ready to debut for you. We're not going live tomorrow for anyone out there, just a programming note. But it is the first edition ever of Minor League Mondays, so check out that. Really appreciative of all your work, Ricky, and all the stuff you've been doing behind the scenes to get that out. So, but how you been?
Doing all right. Over here in the greater Cincinnati area, we got some very strong wins. There's a possibility we lose some internet tonight, but other than that, doing pretty well. How about yourself?
I say we should be used to that type of thing with possibly losing our live feed, live show, recording, what have you. But no, it's been good. We're busy getting out the content to you guys. We're going to have shows every Sunday at 8 p.m. We're the Red Hot Reds, the Cincinnati Reds podcast. We cover the Reds from the DSL, the Dominican Summer League, all the way up to the Big League Club. Sundays are going to be mostly focused on the Big League Club and how their stuff is going. Like today, the opening day roster, the 26-man roster predictions. And on Mondays, like I said, we're going to be covering the DSL, the ACL. We're talking about Daytona, talking about Chattanooga, Dayton, and Louisville exclusively. And as far as I know, as far as I've seen, we are the only podcast that covers the Reds minor league system exclusively. So please tune into that tomorrow. Please download that. We'll go through all the promos. We are not just a podcast on YouTube as you find us today, but we also are on X, we're on Instagram. We also, like I said, a podcast on Spotify and Apple and iHeart. So check that stuff out. Subscribe. If you don't catch us live, you can always download our stuff after the fact the next day. So thank you for everyone that has. We've been growing. It's been a year of growth. We're really appreciative. We're really looking forward to this season because not only are we much improved and better, but our red legs are pretty good, right, Ricky? This 26-man roster debate is a lot better. We're not debating over, like Bubba Thompson is the usual joke I go to, but like Stuart Fairchild. Like there's no Stuart Fairchild kind of like defensive only kind of guy for the most part. We're talking about major leaguers trying to compete for that 26-man. I don't know exactly where you want to start. We can go anywhere. I know our topics. We want to talk about maybe the news of the day because it's been a week since we gone live. Actually, let's start there. It came out this week that our guy, Hunter Green, got bone spurs at his elbow and is going to be out 12 to 14 weeks, was it? Or something along those lines? Yeah. Basically back around the All-Star break at the very earliest. What were your thoughts when you heard the news?
I think everything went through our minds when you get the report that it's an elbow and he's already had Tommy John. So that just freaks you out a little bit. And then you hear that the UCL's clean, and it was just something that he was dealing with it last year, And I think we've made the comment, we had Clay Snowden on, that, you know, he went from being told he wasn't doing what it takes to come back to coming back with an injury, and it never got better. And, you know, now he goes into spring training with the same injury that he had. And, you know, it sucks because it seems like he's damned if you do and damned if you don't with him, because you tell him he's not doing what it takes to come back, and then he does, and he's hurt. But then, you know, you're also dealing with the injuries every year throughout his career. So it's unfortunate, but I think luckily this year we do have some pretty good pitching depth. I think Brandon Williamson pitched today and looked really good. So I think this is the year you can kind of squeeze by and be okay. I mean, obviously you want your best pitcher out there every fifth day, but
Yeah.
I think they have 5 other, you know, quality above average big league pitchers, 2 that are could be a number 1 or a 2 on certain other teams as well. So I think it sucks, but I think we can survive a little bit.
Yeah, I think exactly those thoughts in terms of like, I think this ball club was built with the philosophy of draft develop pitchers, because you can't really get big, free agents to come to Great American Small Park and pitch. So if you draft and develop and keep developing these pitchers, and you can't have enough good starting pitching, which is what they've been doing at least for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, it ends up being a surplus of pitchers that could fill the void, eat those innings, if you will. I mean, they did trade for, Brady Singer, who has been steady Eddie, eating up innings and being a guy that never misses a start. So, like, I think the rotation is not in the best place possible, but we're not completely – this is not going to sink the whole season. And unfortunately for Hunter, it seems like another situation where I think the report was after he got after his start and after the Reds lost against the Dodgers in October of last year, is he got a recommendation to get a shot into his arm as opposed to surgery back then. So then there's this thing where, like, he's trying to listen to the doctors. He's trying to do the right thing by the club and whatnot. Ends up obviously being a situation that now, after, pitching just one start in spring training, his arm is needing surgery. And now all of a sudden it's part-time Hunter Green again. And that's always kind of been the mark against him, is that he can never pitch a full season without getting hurt. And a lot of those guys that throw 100 plus always are susceptible, it feels like, to injuries no matter what. I don't know what we do with Hunter Green. I think the thought that Clay Snowden presented is that he's kind of a guy that we just have to accept that he's going to go 120 innings. And if he maxes out at 120 innings every season at the deal that he's at under contract, we'll kind of take it, because starting pitching is expensive. Maybe there's that 2020 hindsight argument of like, we could have traded him in the offseason and gotten some surplus of bats and outfield, whatever it could have been, maybe prospects as well. Coulda, woulda, shoulda. Where we are right now, I don't think we're in a terrible place in the starting rotation, which we'll talk about later in the show in terms of the guys that we anticipate going to be on the 26-man roster. But yeah, it's definitely it stinks. He doesn't get to, pitch opening day. He doesn't get to be a part of the ball club for the first half of the season. It's just another unfortunate chapter in the Hunter Green and Cincinnati Reds story.
It's just unfortunate, and sadly it's been something we've just kind of dealt with over the last 3 or 4 years, and we hoped it would get better, but luckily we're not paying him top starting pitch. He's not getting Tarek Skubal numbers.
Yeah, this is kind of turning into a situation where is he movable too, because of the fact that he's rarely healthy. It ends up being a situation where we're just kind of play out the string of the contract. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe we're predicting too far in the future. Maybe this is a situation where maybe his body's not going to betray him, or he's not going to have a situation where he gets maybe advice that ends up delaying his debut in the 2026 season or the next season, what have you. I don't know. We just got to look forward to, I think, in July is being in a spot of contention, and then adding basically a starter at the trade deadline of Green, and basically getting reinforcements with whatever situation. Hopefully above 500, competing for the division is the scenario when we come to mid-July.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Nothing about that because I don't know if we want to completely
Make it a downer show.
Yeah, we're trying to keep it light. I'm getting out my my 40-man roster that I got back in spring training and whatnot that has all the guys that were listed for the big league camp for 2026. And little by little, since mid-February, they've been whittling down the roster to what we're going to try to predict will be the 26-man roster on opening day. And I don't know, just a little side note, Ricky, our 26-man roster last season completely got blown up with the Stuart Fairchild situation that happened where he swung on a pitch that he was told to take or what have you, some sort of controversy where I think that kind of stuff doesn't fly in Tito's clubhouse where you're told to bunt. He says you're to bunt. You're not to wave off the sign and take whatever, pitch you're supposed to hit or what pitch you're supposed to take. So like that kind of thing has set, I think, a lot of tones for what type of player is going to be in this clubhouse. And I think we have a pretty good chance of predicting this year, knowing kind of what Tito likes, what the type of players we have in this roster at the moment. But there's a lot of changes that can happen from now till it's 11 days until opening day. Also Austin Hayes rolled his ankle or hamstring 2 days before opening day. Hopefully nothing like that happens again. But any overall takeaways on how many or what the guys that are still left in camp or any storylines that you want to hit before we start getting into the specific positions?
Yeah, I guess one storyline is I haven't, obviously I haven't seen your 26-man. You haven't seen my 26-man, but I think we could probably agree we don't have Brandon Williamson on it in the 26-man. But he has looked really good. He had a really good outing today. And then the Caleb Ferguson injury that happened the other day really threw a wrench in my bullpen. But that's about all I have as far as like storylines. It's been unfortunate seeing our bullpen be the worst bullpen in all of spring training, but it is what it is at spring training, and I'm not worried yet.
Yeah, there's different things that pitchers go through in spring training that don't necessarily always translate to numbers. I think even there was a Charlie G tweet out there that he put out that before Nick Lodolo got roughed up by, was it the Dodgers or the Giants or whatever, recently, like Nick Lodolo in spring training had like a 1.8 ERA, a 2.3 ERA. And like, so based on that numbers, he should be throwing even better when you go back up north, when it's a little bit colder, you got a better grip on the ball. The batters aren't at as much of an advantage as in the thin air Arizona. But that's not always the translation. Like that's the thing about spring training. You always take it for a little bit of what it's worth, not 100%. It's not going to completely predict exactly what's going to happen in the regular season. Same thing with the bullpen. Going up north could be beneficial to his bullpen to settle back into a more comfortable situation, even though Great American Small Park, not the greatest to pitch in. I'm not too worried. The biggest thing, like I say with pitchers, is just come out of spring training healthy, because if you're healthy, you're available and you're able to get out there and get after it. There hasn't been, as you pointed out, terrible amount of storylines for at least roster construction. We did get a trade. We did get Tyler Callahan traded as well. That's one other one, and got Kyle Nicholas on the 40-man roster. So that could be a factor that gets played in. I was trying to check before the show if he's still pitching for Italy. I believe so, because Italy advanced as well. Last night, was it? Oh man, I get my days mixed up. Yeah, they pitched. He played, I think, last night. Sorry, checking in real time. But yeah, he should be still with the Italian national team for the World Baseball Classic, going into the are they in the semifinal on Monday?
Semifinals, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be a big deal if we see Kyle Nicholas pitching tomorrow and maybe on Tuesday. But yeah, I wanted to say that the lack of storylines is probably no news is good news kind of thing, or the less bad news, less injury news, right? It's been Caleb Ferguson and Hunter Green and maybe a couple other smaller storylines for at least injuries that are not huge ones. All right. We're not talking about Matt McClain. We're not talking about, oh gosh, I was thinking TJ Friedel being hurt in spring training, stuff like that. So
yeah,
that being put to the side, we're kind of in a good situation, a healthy situation where all 26 spots, I think, are super competitive and super it could be controversial in terms of what they actually go with. I don't think it will be. I think it may be pretty predictable, hopefully, but I think I probably said the same thing last season, saying that Stuart Fairchild is going to be a guaranteed lock on the 26 man, and that did not come to fruition. So, Ricky, if you're ready, we can just go. I think the catching position might be the most simple, plain. We know the two guys that are going to do it. Barring injury, barring whatever may happen in the next couple days. But what are your thoughts on the catchers for the 26th?
Yeah, it was around this time last year. I think Tyler Stevenson had an oblique injury, and we were really kind of scrambling to see what would happen. And honestly, I don't even remember what happened. I just remember that Trevino started the season out on a tear and earned the extension that he had earlier in the spring. Yeah, but I think it's kind of a lock that it's going to be Stevenson and Trevino as your two catchers. And is this the last opening day for Tyler Stevenson as a Cincinnati Red? That's going to be the storyline.
Yeah, and I think you've got some hot takes surrounding that as well. So we may get to that later in the show. This was the weird part of the season because you're right. Like Stevenson, who we thought was going to be like bouncing back after a 2024 season, doing pretty well. In 2025, he's going to be even better. And then he gets hurt. And then it's the Austin Wynns and Jose Trevino show.
That's right.
Who basically carried the offense in April. This is the thing. It's like they were like not just, above average catchers. They were carrying. The offense was obviously, as well documented on this show and many others, horrible in April. Aside from Easter, which was like, I think April 24th last year, was later in the month, where they scored the 24 or 26 runs or whatever it was. Aside from that, getting shut out 3 straight, games 1-0 and whatnot, the ball club was carried by these guys. And unfortunately, because of the way that Austin Wynns didn't have any options, and Stevenson was going to be coming back anyway because he's the main guy here, and Jose Trevino is that veteran catcher that got the extension. Austin Wynns was the odd man out, ended up being DFA'd and sent on his way, I think, claimed by Oakland, I want to say, and has got, I think, a contract with them. So shout out to Austin Wynns, pro Austin show, as we have always said on this show. But I think it's pretty cut and dry. Aside from injury, obviously you don't want that. Stevenson starting opening day, Jose Trevino backing him up. I guess my question to you is, how many games would you like to see Stevenson start? Should he start? And like what kind of numbers are we looking at if you want to put something on like that?
Yeah, that's a good question because he started 88 games last year, and he had 138 in 2024, 142 in 2023. 2023 honestly shouldn't have started that many with all he was coming off of the injury from 22. He just did not look good at all. And 2024, he finally kind of bounced back. But, last year, he just, I don't know what it was, just never really got consistent, but he wasn't bad. I would say if you could get 115 games out of him as a starter, let's just say he plays 140 and you can get him like 100 as a catcher, I think that's successful.
I was going with like the 120 number in my head for him. 120 is an excellent season for him, knowing his propensity to not necessarily even when he was playing a bunch of games in 2024, they still, like, David Bell had like the rest day for him because of the wear and tear of being a catcher or what have you, right? And we were all kind of debating, I remember in 2024, like, dude, he's one of the better hitters on this ball club. Get him in the lineup. And he'd just be resting. He wouldn't be DH or first base or whatever. Get him in the lineup, right? I remember that argument the whole time, but maybe David Bell has something, along the lines of some sort of, prediction that like, oh yeah, he can't play 140 games because the next year he barely played 90. So I guess more than 90, north of 90, less of 140. Maybe I'm negotiating with myself. 115 sounds great as well. So hopefully in that situation, we're going to be seeing, top talent or the top peak of Tyler Stevenson if he's playing in that 110, 115, 120 range of games as opposed to this 88. You know what I mean? So we'll see how it ends up playing out. I think also for numbers, 20 home runs, I don't think is that crazy of especially with the lineup being better, the lineup being a lot more lethal and threatening. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 20 home runs out of Mr. Tyler Stevenson.
Yeah, I mean, like Steve Offenbaker is famous for asking for 40 home runs from Stevenson every year. Early in his career, you could see the potential for that, but he's a catcher, wear and tear. Just, I think if you could get a 260, a 270 average, a 740 OPS with 20 to 25 home runs, that's a very successful season, and he's going to get paid next year.
Yeah, the question is by who, Ricky?
I don't think it's going to be us.
Yeah, I think the JL Real Muto, didn't he get an extension somewhere, or did he get? I forget exactly, but he might be out of Philadelphia. I feel the last time I checked in on the Phillies, but I'm not checking. Not a Philly show.
It seems like a prime spot for Tyler to go.
Yeah, well, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see that in terms of Tyler Stevenson's career once we hit the CBA and whatnot. It'd be very interesting to see this whole offseason just in general. But any other thoughts about our catchers? Jose Trevino, I think if he's playing 80 to 90 games, that's probably too much for him. Just as a small side note, we're wanting him to be the third day catcher, the Sunday getaway catcher, the guy that works with the bullpen or works with the starting pitchers and getting them ready and whatnot, but not necessarily the guy starting 2 out of 3 games every day.
Yeah, if he's playing 80 games or more, there's either an injury to Stevenson or Stevenson's just not performing.
Yeah, which not ideal because even our guy Greg Kuffner, Reds Daily, says like we have our issues with Tyler Stevenson, but where are we going to get his type of production, the capability of production that he can give? Right, obviously. Right. If he's not out there, it's hard for him to be obviously as productive. And if he's injured or playing through injuries, it's hard for him to be as productive. But we definitely a healthy 120 game Tyler Stevenson, I think, bodes well for a 2026 Reds.
Yeah, absolutely.
So moving on, this is where I think a position battle will be interesting because we got some comments in the chat. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. But the infield, and specifically kind of the first base, but mostly the infield. What are your thoughts, Ricky, on what our infield's kind of going to look like? We've got obviously some comments in the past of like who's going to be Ellie's backup. What are we going to do with Spencer Steer? Is he like a secret infielder with his ability to play the outfield and infield? What do we do with Nathaniel Lowe? What do we do with Suarez and Hayes at third? Like all these comments. That's kind of there's a lot more, I guess, storylines here in terms of what we're going to look like for our infield on opening day. But what are your thoughts on the infield right now?
Yeah, so if you want my list that I have Spencer Steer, Eugenio Suarez, Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart, and Nathaniel Lowe as my infielders. That's kind of middle infielder short, but I figure my logic is, I guess I did forget Ke'Bryan Hayes, but my logic is that Steer is going to be backing up first base, second base, and then getting time in the outfield. And then Sal is going to be playing first base, DH, second base, possibly third base. And then you're going to have Suarez playing third base, first base, DH. Nathaniel Lowe is probably going to be that platoon DH, first base, option 2 versus right-handed pitching. And, I think Steer will probably get more time in the outfield than we think. And even though he's listed on the depth chart as an infielder, I think that's just because he played first base a lot last year. And he's a solid first baseman. But you want to get a position for your foundational future in Sal Stewart. You want him to have an everyday spot, be an anchor, and just get comfortable at the major league level, because we saw what happened with Jose Barrero. When he came up, it was just kind of like you're the number one prospect in the organization. And for some reason, they valued Kyle Farmer way more than they valued Jose Barrero. And, whatever it was, obviously it didn't pan out in the long run, but you don't want to see that same situation happen to Sal Stewart. And I'm not saying they're the same player, but mentality for those kind of things could make anybody any player. So I think you're probably going to have Nathaniel Lowe not playing a lot, but I don't think they're going to cut him. I think he's playing too well to cut. And Ke'Bryan Hayes just, I think he solidified himself as the foundational third baseman. Now, if he hits, obviously there's two sides of that. It's good for your team. Your below average hitters hitting, and he's the best third baseman in baseball. Or two, you could trade him and you can get more depth somewhere else, and you can have Suarez or Sal Stewart play third base more often. But what's confusing is in this whole process, as I ramble on, is there's not really a backup for Elliott shortstop other than Matt McClain sliding over. And then you put Steer at second base and you swap him and Sal Stewart every once in a while. Because that Steer does say that second base is his favorite place to play. Maybe they lean into that a little bit more this year. He's not terribly defensively. He's not slow-footed either. And, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world to see.
Yeah, this is where our rosters differ a little bit because I don't classify Steer as an infielder right now. I have him actually in the outfield. But for the most part, we've got the same guys. It's, Nathaniel Lowe, Sal Stu kind of in the first base area, Ellie McClain in the middle infield, Ke'Bryan Hayes, and then Eugenio at third, basically. And you're talking about kind of not having, much middle infield thing or depth or whatnot. And that's why I think this offseason, I think their plan with, Edwin Arroyo, struggling to get his name out, but he is basically the backup plan there if there's injuries, say to McClain, say to an Elliott, if that should happen. Like, he's basically kind of the insurance policy because, you can't have McClain play shortstop probably, but I don't know if you want him playing every single day there unless he's hitting. And, he's obviously shown in spring training he's kind of ready to rock, and hopefully he can carry that momentum and that confidence into opening day into Cincinnati. But, I think having Edwin Arroyo kind of waiting in the wings as a middle infield depth piece is kind of the plan for the Cincinnati Reds. Yeah, Ke'Bryan Hayes is definitely the run preventer that Tito wanted to trade for. I would say at least maybe they I don't know if they exactly ask him about everything. He says that he, uses the players that he gets, but he seems like it's the type of player that Tito would want. And he ends up being the starter with Eugenio, I guess, not playing as much third base because I think someone had put in the comment, right? Well, Suarez will be backing up Hayes at third base. And that's interesting because Suarez has, I don't think, he had one start at third base in the World Baseball Classic, and I think it was like against Israel or something. So not like a big time opponent. He's been mostly DH for even Venezuela. So if Eugenio is starting north of 30 or 40 games at third, I don't know if that'd be interesting to see why that's happening and what's happening exactly. I anticipate him being penciled in every day DH, if not resting for like a Nathaniel Lowe. And I think we're both really high on the Nathaniel Lowe thing, and it is an interesting situation because he's out of options, so he has to make the 26-man roster if he's going to be a Cincinnati Red. Otherwise, he'll be released to explore whatever other options he can possibly find, off waivers or whatnot. So I think they really like him a lot there. A reason why, again, I also put Spencer Steer in the outfield category for my 26-man is because the days I was there for spring training, he was only in the outfield working out. He was not working out with the infielders at all, and they were working simultaneously, and they go back and forth for different things on different fields. And as far as I saw, he was in left field, working out left field. TJ Friedel playing a lot of left field as well, just for that matter. Will Benson playing a lot of center. So there's that. Take that what you will. And I think we'll get into the outfielders in a bit. That's really a huge position battle that is going to be interesting, as Carrick already has a comment loaded and ready to go for us to talk about our Cincinnati Reds outfield, man. That might be the biggest unit that has improved as well. from 2025. Last year we were dogging the 2025 outfield and really praising the 2025 infield. And I think it might be not flipped, but I think our infield is still one of our stronger units. But our outfield has really improved. But any other thoughts about the infield before we move on to our outfielders?
Yeah, just you had the advantage of being in Arizona and seeing Steer out there in left field.
Sorry
No, you're good. I think that just history wise for him, he does play second base, first base, and I think he's gonna be like the super utility guy for him.
I can see.
I think he'll play every day basically, but just in a different spot every other day.
Yeah, so long as he's hitting. This is the thing I think that we had slight issue with last year when our roster got whittled down with a Hayes injury, with a Stevenson injury, is that our offense ended up having a DH that had one good arm, his non-throwing arm, and he had to go up there and hit for like 100. The Spencer Steer, that is.
Was it even that?
Yeah, and it was kind of very apparent. Like I'm not obviously a baseball scout by any means. I was just a fan that watches the game closely, and it didn't look like 100% Spencer Steer. And he later admitted that on a Jim Day podcast that he had been hurt since June of 2024 and basically wasn't 100% until June 2025.
So what are we doing with that? It's like, I get it, you want your guys to play, but man, like, he was awful.
And he has options. This is not a situation where like they had no options and he had to be let go. Okay, just an organizational thing that obviously is above Tito's pay grade. Those are the people that should be making that choice.
Because if you think about it, when that happened, they brought up Hines, and Hines, had that tear, and then they optioned him back down.
Yeah, you're talking about 2024 tear. Yeah, that summer.
Yeah.
Oh man, we can go on and on about this. It'll be our own podcast of what happened to Spencer Steer and what happened to all that stuff. But anyway, I don't know if we want to get down that path too far. But yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, Carrick saying hope Steer plays second base in spring training. He's I hope so. I didn't see it, and I don't think he has officially, right, in spring training. I don't think he's been. They've been playing a lot of minor leaguers at second base, like a Leo Balcazar and whatnot. I haven't checked to see if they've thrown Spencer Steer in the mix. This would be the time to do it, right? Like spring training is a little bit like the 2025 or no, going into 2024, we had Jonathan India taking outfield reps, right? Like that's exactly why I guess I'm making my opinion based that they're only seeing Spencer Steer right now as an outfielder, because unless there's some other times during spring training he was taking some infield reps. Maybe that's what's happening now. I hear that our guy Greg Kuffner is going to be down there Wednesday, so maybe we'll check in with him if he gets to the backfields and
we'll get an update.
We'll get a little insider action there to see what Spencer Steer is working on that given day. Yeah,
or obviously like the most quickest thing for Greg is Reds on SI. He'll be on that like that.
Like Charlie G, like Charlie G's got so many articles that I'm still like I got like a backlog.
If you get halfway through a Charlie G article, he's got 2 more out.
Yeah, and they're usually both Bengals and Reds. He's doing both at the same time. It's not like it's just all Reds. It's anyway crazy. Well, anyway, moving on. All outfield, and I think this might be where we have some differences, Ricky. Maybe not. I don't know. We've got a lot of options, and good options, right? Not Bubba Thompson options. Real major leaguers that have been hitting well in spring training. You had pointed out Dane Myers has hit 2 or 3 of the hardest hit balls of his career for the Cincinnati Reds in spring training. So that's a positive thing. Like we talked about with Clay, like it's not necessarily about Santiago Espinal hitting all these home runs. It's about the process of your bat, your plate approach, and your ability to, basically go out there and be consistent with your approach and whatever the result is at the end of the day, we'll take it if it's positive, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you're guaranteed a spot if you hit 500, right? Like we had kind of alluded to in previous shows and whatnot. And even Tito has said it himself. But that being said, the outfielders, I don't think anybody's really had a bad spring. Maybe Marte? Maybe Marte might have been like but we know exactly what kind of what Marte is at this
Yeah.
point. He's had 162 plus games at the major league level, and so we kind of have a decent sample size for him now, not this half sample size stuff. But I don't know where you want to start necessarily for the outfielders, but what are your thoughts initially?
Yeah, so I have Friedel penciled in as your everyday center fielder, Marte penciled in as your everyday right fielder, and then I have a platoon. Well, I guess a mixture of JJ Bleday, Will Benson, and Dane Myers, with Steer included in that mix too, just because you're throwing them everywhere. But that's my 5 that I have. So you have 3 lefties and 2 righties, but one righty hits righties pretty good, and one lefty hits lefties really good. So it's a good little balance to have.
So I guess I just want to check your math. So you got Spencer also in the 5. Do you have 5 infielders or 6 infielders?
I have Steer as officially as my infielder, but I have Steer as like moving around.
Okay, so do you have 12 position players? Because I got it just for my math. I got 13 position players, 13 pitchers. So I'm trying to figure out because maybe there's somebody.
Yeah, I have 12 because of I forgot to write down Key Brian Hayes.
Okay, all right. So Key Brian Hayes is in there. Okay. Anyway, okay. So yeah, we've actually got probably the same outfielders now that I think about it. You said Friedel, Marte. You said Bleday, Myers, and Spencer Steer.
Benson.
Oh, so that's where we differ. I think I'm favoring a Dane Myers and a Bleday and a Spencer Steer platoon in left, and or backing up, Friedel at center field for that, and then having Marte as the everyday right fielder.
Yeah.
I think they're optioning down Hines and Benson again. They have options. They've been there at the start of the 2025 season in Louisville and killed it. The question becomes what type of rope they're going to give them if they call them up, when they call them up to the majors again. That's been kind of the main thing there. And I don't know if you want to start highlighting. Carrick's been talking about his guy. Reese Hines.
I could see it. I could see him coming up there just because he does hit righties very well. He's hitting the ball hard. And to clarify, my 5 outfielders that I have that are full-time outfielders are Friedel, Marte, Bleday, Benson, and Myers. That's my 5. And then you're throwing Steer out there as like your platoon guy. But yeah, I could see Hines making the team.
Really?
I do. I just don't know who you would swap him with, because I don't know if you would say he earned a spot over Will Benson. But then again, with Bleday, if you're keeping Bleday, you're having a lefty who hits lefties, and you'll have a righty who hits righties in Hines. So that's not a bad problem to have.
Yeah.
So, but the good thing with all of this is every single one of these outfielders has options. So, like, we're not having to decide on, does player A need to stay because player B doesn't have any options, or vice versa, whatever. But yeah, I don't know if Benson's a lock. I do know that Tito, in their first meeting in spring training, basically said, this conversation we're having this year is a whole lot different than what we had last year. So maybe he's gonna make the team. I don't know, but the hard part is they're facing a lefty opening day, so
yeah.
I don't think that he's gonna get the start on opening day.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I could see a world where Hines makes the team, but he also doesn't hit lefties too great either.
Yeah, and
same with Marte.
Yeah, the last 2 spots between Lowe, Bleday, Hines, Dunn, Benson. Sound like Benson's getting one of those spots. Yeah, it could be a possibility that Nathaniel Lowe could be the odd man out. I guess I'm going off of history and historical stuff with Tito and Benson, and how last year it was kind of like he was hitting pretty well in spring training, and he still didn't make the team coming out of camp. And that was even a less crowded outfield last year, to be honest with you. So that's kind of why my thoughts are like, Benson might be option down. But you're right, all these guys, Bleday could possibly start in AAA, or maybe they're trying to kind of letting the chips fall where they may, and maybe one of these guys get a hamstring or something. They pull something, and then now it makes it a little bit clearer what the 26 man will look like for the outfield. I think all these guys are healthy, as far as I know, as of this recording today. I think it's still they really like Friedel. They like, I think, Myers being the backup to Friedel, even though that Benson has been playing a lot of center, and he could be maybe Clay Stone always talks about how in Great American, Benson be completely fine playing center field at Great American Ballpark, but it's smaller. Not sure about his range if we go to different ball clubs, ballparks and whatnot. So we'll see. But yeah, Benson and Lowe. Oh man, this is going to be interesting coming down a stretch. Our predictions could be completely out of whack and be totally different than what ends up being out there on March 26th.
For all we know, they swing a massive trade and something crazy happens. But
or some sort of massive injury happens that totally shakes up the whole organization, top to bottom.
Austin Hendrick.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but there's still a lot of these guys. I feel like whatever it ends up, the permutations end up looking, I'm not going to be upset seeing JJ Bidet starting in left field on opening day, right? Yeah. Or a Reese Hines, or you know what I mean? Like I feel like, or you say he doesn't hit lefty, so maybe he plays day 2 or day 3. But like stuff like that. If they're in the roster, I'm not scratching my head wondering why like Stuart Fairchild's getting like 100 starts in center field, right? Yeah. Like in 2024, for example. So like, or we're seeing like a Bubba Thompson being added. It doesn't feel like we're getting into that territory as of right now. Like we're still 11 days out. A lot can change, but at the same time, I'm really happy with any of these options here. I'm not saying that Hines doesn't deserve it. I think Benson has been playing his tail off and can be flexible to play all 4 outfield position, or all three outfield positions. I forgot you got left out. Don't forget that, that position, left bench. But anyway, he played that a lot last year, by the way.
Yeah, he did.
but I feel good with a lot of these guys, whatever the it ends up looking like in the, I think, 5-man outfield. I think that's for sure that they're going to have a 5-man outfield out there. With Spencer Steer kind of being that sneaky flex player between the infield and outfield is my prediction, at least. Yeah,
because you could swing this a couple ways, and I'm going to name 6 just because there's going to be one too many here. But your outfield versus lefties could be Friedel, Blade, and Myers, and then your outfield versus righties could be Benson, Hines, and Marte, because Marte and Hines both hit righties really well, and then obviously Benson. Yep. So that's they got. I mean, like everybody wants to look at the splits and the lefty versus righty and doing the mismatch stuff, but the Reds have a weird dynamic going where they have guys that hit the same hand better than do the opposite hand. So
yeah,
I don't know what they do.
Go ahead. I wasn't trying to cut you off, but like that 6-guy rotation that you're talking about, the 6-guy outfield, Nathaniel Lowe could be the odd man out, and then Spencer Steer's considered a infielder.
Utility, yeah.
At first base, right? Yeah. So like that could be the situation too, and they have, like you said, options to go up against righties and lefties, and it doesn't necessarily like there isn't a huge drop off, because that was I think the problem with the last year's unit is like you'd go up against lefties and we'd have nobody that can hit lefties, right? Like Stuart Fairchild was the guy supposedly that could hit lefties, right? And he ended up getting let go from the team. And then what is it after that? Basically, Ellie could hit lefties. That's about it. I don't even know. So that I think we're in a way better spot, I feel, than a year ago. But any other thoughts about this outfield? It could be very interesting.
Yeah, I think outfield is the best depth that they have on the team.
Really?
Other than maybe the rotation, but the depth that they have goes all the way down to AAA. And I think there's 3 guys in AAA that could play this year on the Reds too.
Really?
That being Hines. Yeah, that being Hines, Dunn, and one of the guys that gets moved down.
Yeah, we haven't even talked about Blake Dunn. I forgot to tell you. I don't know if we said this on the show or off show. dude, he is like jacked. He's like a really like walking around like Mike was like, "Hey, who's that guy?" I'm like, "Dude, that's Blake Dunn." Oh my god. Like
Wow.
he looks like a guy that you would see play in like football.
They
The
say
way,
he was a football player for a
oh,
while, up
well, there you go.
until he chose baseball, I think, going into college.
Well, there you go. He has the body type of a football player, and it didn't look like a baseball player when I saw him out there. And if he has the end of the AAA season that he had last year and can build on that, he could be playing in this outfield as well. And I don't think I'd be as upset. We're not in a Jacob Hurtubise. I shouldn't say. Blake Dunn actually came out and hit 190 as well. Well, I think Blake Dunn. Hopefully, that's stuff behind him. And
Yeah, he had a really strong end of the year, and he's looked good in the spring too. So I think he's past that what he was to start last year.
What is it? Carrick said we got 14 position players. Is he talking about you, Ricky? Because I got mine counted out. I got 13 and 13, unless I don't know how to count. But anyway,
we count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, moving on. We got our pitchers that we're going to go through, starting rotation, which I think this is where the depth is of the team. Because you have a Hunter Green injury and you still feel pretty good going with this rotation with Abbott at the top as your opening day starter. I think the guys behind him as well, even though we got like a Burns on a pitch inning limit, I think going into this season, if we can get a good stuff out of him the first half of the season, and then we pick up a Hunter Green on the back end of the season, that's kind of like two halves of the player becoming one type of thing is my thought process when I first kind of heard the injury news from Hunter Green as well. And those guys are both flamethrowers, so I'm not wishing any, injury for either of them with them throwing 100 miles per hour all the time. But I think this is one of the top rotations still in baseball, minus their all-star, minus their guy that is gotten Cy Young votes in the past. How do you see this rotation? I mean, I don't think we're going to differ. Like your starting five is probably the same as my starting five. I don't think it'd be different. We talked about, I think, Williamson a little bit. But just to put this out there, I got Abbott, Lodolo, Singer, Burns, Louder. And that's how it's going to be for the first 3 games. I think Burns starts that 4th game against the Pirates in that second series.
Yep. Yeah. I have the exact same that order. So you could possibly flip Louder and Burns just to have a little bit more major league experience and Louder. I mean, it's not by much really, because actually it's probably less, but just I guess Louder was pitching. I don't know. You could go either way, I guess, but maybe you're resting Burns a little bit more, having a measure 5th guy. I don't know, but
yeah,
it's a good problem to have, because there is Brandon Williamson who is really pitching well, and I just don't think they go 3 lefties. That was really the main reason why I left them out. They could, but you're kind of hurting yourself if you do that long term, I guess. But with Green coming back, maybe that's a way you can find a way to trade Singer during the season. And I don't know what you do with that, but they have a lot of depth, and they have some minor league pitchers who are, pretty close to being there too. Jose Franco being one of them. I still think he's a starter for this year. I think he eventually might transition into a reliever role, but coming off of Tommy John like 2 years ago now, I think last year was his first year they were kind of trying to get him going. He pitched no more than 4 innings, I believe. I think this year they might stretch him out a little bit more, but if they don't stretch him out this year, then I think the signs are that they are moving him to the bullpen. But you've also got Chase Petty, who I've seen some talk around him being a little better with his command. And then that's about all. We have probably 7 starters, 8 starters that are ready, and that's not including Hunter Green.
Yeah, I think it's a good problem to have all these guys in AAA. Unfortunately, not necessarily ready to go. Not even mentioning a guy like Julian Aguiar,
Yeah.
who has looked great this spring. The guy I was really excited about to talk about with our starting five of starting pitchers is Rhett Lauder. He had come back from a long road of his arm. He has a back oblique or something like that.
It started with a forearm strain, and then
Yeah.
it turned into an oblique, I think. And
Yeah,
it's just he never got healthy last year.
yeah, until the very, very end, where I think he made one, start in like ACL or something like that. But anyway, he goes in the Arizona Fall League to basically continue his season, to continue his work. Has looked great in the Arizona Fall League. Continue that into spring. So I'm actually most excited to see what he looks like in 2026. Hopefully, being able to be successful and effective with the array of pitches that he has. Obviously, we got the flamethrowers like Hunter and Burns, and it's no knock on him for his stuff, but he's more of a crafty pitcher at 95, 96. So it's kind of like, okay, but I'm really excited to see what kind of contribution he can do for this ball club, because when he came up in 2024, he looked excellent, right? He came out really pitching well at the end of 2024, I think for like a September call up or what have you, or a late season call up. Yeah. But yeah, just to kind of go through the guys that could be in AAA, talk about Jose Franco, Chase Petty, as you talk about, Julian Aguiar, Kevin Abel, Stan Benschotter, Davis Daniel, Brandon Liebrandt, Ryan Cardona, and our guy Nate Peterson, the guy we picked up from the Brewers. So
and don't leave out Carson Spires coming back potentially in the summer, late summer.
Yeah, he's still injured and got released and signed back on.
He had Tommy John, I think, back in June, I think.
Yeah,
or it was earlier in the season.
Sounds right.
Jose Acuna, Carrick brings up Jose Acuna too.
Another one.
They got some pitching depth that we're really excited about. And
yeah, that's why I was surprised
about your Lauder talk too. Is he made 5 starts, and I think 4 of them were rehab starts, and then he made 4 appearances in the fall league. So he pitched as much in the fall league as he did all year.
Yeah, and that I think was really kind of just extended rehab, because in the fall league they don't really stretch you out too much, maybe 3-4 innings at most when we're talking to Jonathan Harmon and whatnot. But that's why I was surprised at your comment saying that the outfield's got the most depth. I'm like, dude, we got starting pitching. Hopefully, we're not going to have to go all the way down to number 14 on the options list and whatnot. But I think like we talked about all last year going into the season, the foundation of how they construct their roster is they want to draft and develop pitchers. And in this ballpark, in this, day and age where starting pitching is just super expensive, but super risky for injury, I think the Reds are doing it the right way. And also, like we also talk about a lot in the show, Derek Johnson is the right guy to lead this director of pitching and, pitching coach at the major league level. He's the guy that's really, I think this is a byproduct of his, development and work in this organization. Hopefully that they're following whatever he's been putting down there. And a lot of these guys hopefully will be able to be, contributors, whether that's a Chase Petty or Jose Franco to this ball club in 2026. It'll be exciting to see at the very least. The one thing I had rumbling around my head, and they talked about it on the Reds media space, and you guys probably also wrote about it in Reds on SI, is do the Reds go to a 6-man rotation at some point in this year?
I think they could. I think there's more cons than pros. But then again, like, you have a rotation that has injury history. So I guess taking 1 or 2 starts away from each pitcher might be a good thing. So yeah, I had another theory too, but I never published it, was you basically pitch Lauder and Burns in the same game. Like, you would just go 3 innings each. And then, because you would limit both of them, and then you would you would be guaranteed, almost, knock on wood, but guaranteeing yourself 6 innings of a starting pitcher, and then go into your bullpen.
Yeah, why not? We could try it. We try that maybe at certain points of the season. As you know, as this is probably my biggest gripe against this organization in 2024, the David Bell era, is no openers. Okay, That's at least the one thing that I can appreciate, the old schoolness of Tito, is that he maybe did it once. I think he did it for Lodolo when he was having a baby. Like, okay, that's excusable, fine. But none of this, Buck Farmer's still in the system, by the way. But Buck Farmer made so many opener starts in 2024. I wanted to pull my hair out because it was one of those situations where, like, you see, like, the probables of who's starting, and it's like whoever for the other team. And then for the Reds, TBA. It's like, oh my gosh, we're going to have an opener. Are you kidding me? Like, get out of here. Like, anyway, but that's just my old man, get off my lawn take. No openers in 2026, Tito, unless it's, completely necessary. Someone gets sick or someone's having another kid or whatnot or whatever. Maybe some weird weather or something. I don't know. What
Yeah, I feel like Tito's philosophy is his bullpen's going to pitch every day. So he's not going to have an opener.
Yeah, that's good. Shout out to Carrick. He's shouting out another starting pitcher, Javi Rivera. Looking forward to him. Hopefully in Dayton. Dayton's going to be a good team, man.
Yeah, I think so.
We got to get out there in April at the very least, because that might be, as far as we know for Alfredo Duno, that might be as long as he's there. He might get moved up quicker.
He might be there a month.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that's how long Rhett Lauder and Chase Burns were there. They were there for like less than a month. But pitcher's a little bit different. So maybe May. He might be there till May, when it starts to warm up and whatnot. But yeah, we'll keep tabs on Javi Rivera as well for this minor league Mondays. I don't know if you guys caught it at the top end. I'll just do a reset of promoting Sundays like we're doing right now, talking about the big league club and everything that's happened with them. But we now are debuting tomorrow a new episode of Minor League Mondays. It's going to be our refreshed list of the top 30 prospects for the Reds organization, and that is going to be pre-recorded. We're not going live tomorrow. Got some scheduling conflicts, but after that, on the 23rd and the 30th, we will be, I believe, going live covering the Reds AAA and AA system on the 23rd, and then also the High A Dayton and Daytona on the 30th, previewing their season. We'll have a better idea of their rosters, and we'll have some predictions and thoughts and guys to look forward to for those teams and organizations. But Minor League Mondays coming tomorrow. Check it out. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, iHeart, all those places. Check it out. We'll have clips. In fact, Ricky, you put a clip up today already about our guy Kunzel, and talk about that.
Yeah, we got him. Basically, a little teaser for tomorrow's show. We have him starting the season in AAA. I think that's probably a consensus for most people. Just off the year he had last year in AA, I think he's earned the promotion. We talk about him. Had he had a little bit more minor league experience, he's probably a dark horse candidate for the major league bullpen this year. But that clip for us was pretty big. It was almost 8,000 views. So. Yeah, seems like Trevor Kuntz was a hot topic on YouTube.
And he's pitching really well in spring training. The game that we went to, he told me, because I had messaged him after the game, he had 6 pitches to warm up with before he got thrown in there because I forget who was having a struggle. I think it was a lefty. Maybe it was Caleb Ferguson before he got injured. Was giving up like 4 or 5 runs to the Jonathan India Royals. And unfortunately, the Royals, the Reds were needing a guy to get the last out. And I guess Trevor's like, hey, you're the guy. Get warmed up in 6 pitches and then get out there. So, again, I think his ERA, as far as I last saw, 0 ERA, which, obviously spring training stats, but he's been getting the job done when he's called upon, which is great to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's just, we've highlighted his story a lot, and, it's pretty awesome, his story, that he's just potentially one step away.
For sure. Quick comment by Carrick. He's wanting he's saying that he bets that McChrystal get moved up. Yeah, every time we talk to McChrystal, he's got like the opposite view, Carrick, for some reason. He's got everyone really likes to know and sees how far he hits the ball, but I think they really value the line drive hitting of Ryan McChrystal and his ability to also play not just catcher, but first base as well. And I think he's been talking about he's trying to improve his catching and getting better with that. So that is something I think the organization values, which I think I tend to agree with you that McChrystal and Dano might be a package deal together. They might move up through the system together and be a part of that class of 2027 that I like to call, and maybe debut maybe the same season. Maybe we'll see.
Yeah, and he's played a lot of first base too, I think you've highlighted before. So they could find a way to have them up together. Honestly, I think I like to see them be a tandem. They keep going forward.
Yeah, that'd be awesome to see. All right. Any other thoughts about our minors before we move on to our relief pitchers? This is another, I think, contentious topic because there have been some movement. Obviously, you talked about Caleb Ferguson at the top of the show. There's also some guys that are, I think they say Vernon Maxwell. Maxwell, what was his first name? Big Sugar is still in the big league. Zach Maxwell. Gosh, I don't know why I went to 1990s Houston Rockets, but anyway, that's how my brain works. So Zach Maxwell is still in the big league camp, as far as I know, hasn't been reassigned. TJ Antone just got reassigned, so sorry, Mark Sheldon. I don't think he's making the 26-man roster as your prediction was for your Reds beat writer. So Mark Sheldon knows a lot, but still just a insider that may not get it always right. But anyway, that's not the topic of tonight's show. The relievers. This is a part of the organization that they talked about. They needed to rebuild after 2025, and we both all collectively as a fan base kind of rolled our eyes like Kyle Schwarber's a free agent. Are you serious? We're going to talk about rebuilding our bullpen. But they weren't wrong in a way because as we highlighted in the show, and as you just said earlier in the show, they pitch every day and they get the 0 days rest treatment. So, and they led the majors of 126 appearances for guys with 0 days rest. Tony Santillan and Barlow and Pagan being probably the main guys that he goes to on a regular basis. But any storylines or anything you want to point out about the bullpen before we dig into it?
Yeah, I do like. I've seen some rumblings on social media with Hagen Danner. Just he's been pitching really well. Kind of maybe he might be the dark horse candidate that gets in. And then Connor Phillips has been struggling. Ashcraft has been really struggling. Then again, it is just spring training. Sam Moll has looked really good. So there's another piece that I was kind of thinking they were going to DFA or trade. But now with the Ferguson injury, I think that he might have secured himself a spot in the bullpen for sure, just based off he's only the second lefty or the second lefty I think that's in there. They were going to have three if it wouldn't have been for the Ferguson injury, so I think that helps him out. And then the Nicholas trade, I don't know if he starts Major League ready. I think he could. I have him on my list, but I don't know. Carrick brings up Phillips has looked good in his last couple games, touched 99. Like I have a lot of faith in Connor Phillips. I think I've wrote about him a few times. He you just look at like what he's been through in the last couple of years. He came over as a player to be named later. He's a starter. Had a really good outing, I believe. He struck out like 9. I want to say against I think it was Seattle in 2024. And then obviously the last game of the year, he just kind of gets shelled, and that just happens to be the game that the Reds get eliminated from the playoffs. And, last year, was it last year? Yeah, where he basically got sent all the way down to the ACL. And no, that was 2024.
Yeah, it was 2014.
He gets sent all the way down to the ACL to basically relearn how to pitch. Mm-hmm. And I think he started a little bit more, and then he gets converted into a reliever. Last year, he finally gets it going in the bullpen, and he had that, I think it was over 10 innings, scoreless streak. And he was a very pivotal part of that bullpen going forward towards the end of the season. So, yeah, if he can look good, I have a lot of faith in him being a 7th, 8th inning guy. You give Santillan more days off this year.
Yeah. Actually, this is going to be, like I said, very intriguing what it ends up coming down to. I was just looking at Kyle Nicholas. He has not pitched that much for Italy. He pitched 1/3 of an inning and gave up 2 runs. It hasn't made an appearance since. So, and he hasn't made an appearance in the quarters and the semis. So, or probably not going to make an appearance, I should say, in the semis tomorrow. So we'll see about that. if he comes back to camp and maybe earns a spot, then he's still on the 40-man and has an option, so he could still be starting in AAA, but then that takes his option away, and then what do you do about that? So that's why I think for me, I have him on the big league roster to start the year. And honestly, I just made my own little adjustment because now I'm thinking in my head, yeah, it's Hagen Danner season, and I think Connor Phillips with his option still, I think he could possibly start in the minors and retool and whatnot. We saw the glimpse of what Connor Phillips could be, like you had mentioned, against like the end of the year of this 2025. He has come a long way back since then. Consistency is what I think Francona wants out of his bullpen guys. He doesn't want guys that are going to be wildly, all over the place and can't be dependent on to find a strike zone. So if Phillips, if he is hopefully touching 99 and finding the strike zone of late, maybe he makes a last minute push to make the 26-man roster. But I want to be completely surprised if it's Hagen Danner and Connor Phillips starts at Louisville to start 2026.
Yeah. If you want, I have 8 guys. I've got Pagan, Santion, Burke, Johnson, Ashcraft, Mole, and Nicholas, with Danner and Phillips being hyphenated between the last spot. And I think there's a good chance that Danner could make the team, although, you got to give credit to what Phillips did last year and take that into consideration. So maybe it comes down to Danner and Nicholas, and Phillips is in the team. But
yeah,
I think you're going to have 2 lefties. Is Danner right-handed? I don't know a whole lot about him, honestly. And then I was trying to see, Graham Ashcraft still has options. He's got 2 options. So he didn't look great this spring. And then again, it is just spring, right. So there's a chance Ashcraft doesn't make the team. And you have Danner, Phillips, and Nicholas. So there's a lot of ways you could go with this. I think realistically, Ashcraft's on the team. I think, Phillips probably makes the team, and it comes down to Danner and Nicholas being the last spot in. Unless Maxwell really gets it going here in the last few games of spring training and just shows us that he deserves a spot, which he's got the stuff for it. It's just a command he's really struggling with.
Yeah. With Maxwell, he's got 3 options. So I don't know if that's necessarily like a weight on like how they make their decisions in terms of obviously the guys that don't have any, like a Sam Mole, obviously that does kind of play a factor in making a decision if they make the roster or not. But like Maxwell, I think we're both in agreement. I think May already has been assigned down. Maxwell, I think for sure is in AAA to start and figure out his command issues and what have you. And still young, 23, 24, right? I want to say.
Yeah.
So he's got lots of time to figure stuff out.
Yeah, that back half of that AAA bullpen, you got May, Maxwell, and Kunzel. That's 3 flamethrowers.
And maybe Connor Phillips.
Like that's a good bullpen.
Yeah, like it. I mean, yeah, 6, 7, 8, 9's all already sorted for the most part. Yeah. I think we got mostly the same. Ashcraft, Burke, Mole, Pagan, Santion, Pierce Johnson, Kyle Nicholas, and Hagen Danner is my recent add to my 26 because I'm riding the addition. I'm riding the Hagen Danner wave. I got to get a good take in here sometimes, Ricky. I can't always get the bad end of the takes where I'm picking River San Martin and whatnot. But
who was the guy from Oakland that you had on the
Cooper Bowman?
Bowman.
That was last year's show. So if anybody is a day one that remembers the Cooper Bowman take, hopefully you've forgotten it by now. But anyway,
go back and clip it.
Yeah, it's out there somewhere. Anyway, but yeah, I'm gonna ride this Hagen Danner train because you know what, Bryce Spalding knows ball, and he seems to be on that train to have him make the opening day roster, and he's been pitching well. So shout out to him, a guy that I think was just recent addition to the team, right? Like a minor league.
Yeah, it was
deal.
very very recent. I think early February, late January.
So like a guy that wasn't probably figuring to be a part of this ball club, or maybe just part of the minor league part of the ball club to try to earn a spot, is maybe ahead of schedule for his progression with this team. And Yeah, shout out to him. His spring training stats just throw out there are pretty decent. He's got 11.6 strikeouts per nine. He's only walking 2.6 per nine.
He doesn't have any options either.
Well, there you go. I thought he came on a minor league deal. They don't have that. I guess I don't know exactly how they write up.
He's
their
got
deal.
half a season of service time too. That just goes to show you how much he was sit up and sit down.
Interesting. Yeah, mostly with the Blue Jays organization, it looks like.
Yeah.
So, well, if that's the case, then they must really, really like him if they do end up making it. I feel like now I'm, again, setting him up for failure now by picking him in my 46 man. Don't clip it. Don't clip this, please. Because now I feel like I'm I'm getting into this territory where I'm going to doom him for all eternity as a Red. But anyway, and moving on with that. Any other thoughts with the relief pitching? This should be another strength of the organization as well, as we've seen at least how Tito is able to manipulate them and use them in the right spot. So I'm excited that they did retool it, although, obviously I made those comments that we roll our eyes. But what thoughts do you have any more of that?
Yeah, I think overall, if there's I really trust Terry Francona with the bullpen. Like, if there's one thing that, people might not like his lineup choices, they might not like, X, Y, and Z, but if there's one thing I think we can all agree on is how he handles the pitching staff. And I think he's going to get the right guys out there. And we're all going to roll our eyes at the decision to bring in Ian Jabot opening day. But we got to remember he was out for an entire year learning a new team. There really wasn't a guaranteed closer role because in 2024, I mean, who was the closer in 2024? Diaz.
Yeah.
And he had struggled 2024 and he looked even worse. And I think he was injured to start the year.
Yeah.
Last year. So there really wasn't a designated closer. Pagan just kind of earned it and had a career year doing so. So, I really trust Tito when it comes to this. The pitching staff is more specifically the bullpen.
Yeah, for sure. I even trust him as well with our starters as well. He really stretched out some guys and gave confidence to guys like Abbott and Lodolo and Hunter Green as well to trust them late in the innings into games and whatnot. So overall, I think that is one of the best aspects that we learned about Tito's management style and management in general in 2025 and feel confident going even in 2026 the same way about that. So it'll be, I think, a good season pitching wise. I think I made that comment on Tommy's show, which I think will be coming out tomorrow. We do a Reds preview with Tommy Bennett on his baseball scoop. So shout out to that real quick. We'll promote that as well on our socials so you can see that. Both of us appeared on his show talking Reds. Is that I feel like the pitching might take a step back, but the hitting will definitely take maybe 2 steps forward, which will hopefully keep this ball club in that goal of hitting 90 wins. But yeah, that's basically kind of my thought. But to be honest with you, that doesn't mean that they're going to fall all the way back to earth in the pitching. We're just, missing Hunter for obviously half a year and maybe got some guys that, in their first really full seasons with Lauder and Burns may have some struggles, may have some adjustment. Obviously it is the majors, right? Like it's not like they're going up against, minor leaguers all the time. So they're going to have to really kind of prove their worth to stay with this ball club. But we're really excited about these guys, all 26. That's, I guess, the main takeaway for me, Ricky, is that we're not in a situation where we're like, oh my goodness, are we going to field guys that are borderline major leaguers? So I feel really good about the options we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel really good about this pitching staff in general.
Yeah, for sure. I think you have some takes though, Ricky, about some guys here, and I think we're in the portion of the show where we can get off some stuff off our chest and whatnot. If you're ready for that, I know you've been holding on to these takes for a little bit. Are you ready to tell the world how you really feel?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what I had.
All right. I'll do Carrick's comment here. Danner signed a minor league contract. As long as he doesn't have opt-outs, we can send him down. I doubt he has opt-outs, especially because Ricky, you pointed out he's got like less than half a year of
it's
service time.
0.5, yeah.
That's why I was surprised that he has no options. I'll check. Usually Fangraphs is pretty good about this, but maybe the deal that he has just kind of like a minor league deal where he's already assigned to the minors, and maybe he has to be added to our 40 man if he is going to be, you know what I mean? And then at that point, maybe he has zero options. That's what the situation is. I don't know. But anyway,
yeah. So I found it.
Okay.
So I don't want to say it's really a take. It's just more of a discussion that we could have. Here we are going into April. Why no Stevenson or Lodolo talks for an extension? And I don't feel comfortable thinking that, let's just say Green comes back, and I think we get a better trade for Lodolo this trade deadline, as opposed to Singer, because Singer's got half a season of control where Lodolo would have a whole nother year. And then the same situation with Stevenson. But what the issue with Stevenson is we don't have a major league ready catcher who is, I mean, you could say, why am I drawing a blank on his name? He played last year. Will Banfield. You could say potentially Connor Burns, maybe Trotwine, maybe, but they're really there just to catch. They're going to bat ninth every day. They're in a weird situation because you don't want to rush Alfredo Duno. Like, he's your next, I think, superstar. But I don't know what you do to bridge that gap if Stevenson's not coming back, So are you going to rely on a 36, 37-year-old Trevino over the next 2 years to get Duno ready? Or would Connor Burns be ready next year if there's a season? Would Troutwine be ready next year if there's a season? And just basically just don't be the reason why you lose games?
Good question. They're in a weird situation where, they don't have anybody ready, but it doesn't seem like there is any natural successor to Tyler Stevenson. Maybe Ben Rortfeld was that guy, or however you said it, from the Dodgers. Maybe that was the bridge, but then the roster, the way it panned out, he couldn't stay on the Reds 40 man or whatever he was, and got DFA'd. So it's interesting. I don't exactly know what they're thinking about Alfredo Duno, right? Like, because they could fast track him. They fast tracked some other guys. Marte came through the system pretty quick, and got up there at 21. And Duno will be 21 in 2027. So, like, maybe, but that's a maybe, right? That's not necessarily a guaranteed thing.
Cause I think you could look at it that Duno might be on a faster track than what Stevenson was, and Stevenson was older. So Stevenson was drafted out of high school in 2015, and he made his major league debut in 2020. So that was 5 full seasons basically in the minor leagues. And Duno could potentially get to Double-A this year, which would put him on pace to get there a little bit quicker, I think. I don't know. I mean, like Carrick says, they would have to sign a free agent catcher, but then, like, I mean, I'd have to look at some lists to see who's available at that time. But I mean, I think Connor Burns could bridge a gap, but then Connor Burns could be a catcher that could be a long-term solution too, to be a backup catcher behind McChrystal. Maybe they can fast track him just because he has college experience, and you don't have to worry about teaching him how to catch as a professional, that he kind of already is, I guess, and if that makes sense. But yeah, it's like with the Lodolo situation, I find it hard to deal with that too, because obviously you want to keep him long term, and you have to look at the injury history with him too. It's always been the same thing. It's been blisters. He's had, I think, a leg issue in 23, but other than that, like last year, he finally had a good year. really good year. And I don't know what you do with that, because I would just like for there to be at least a rumor, that they've talked. With Stevenson, at least we've heard they've had conversations. Like, I haven't heard like a peep out of anything with Lodolo.
Yeah. I think I think they might have talked with there was a comment about Stevenson's extension coming in the spring training, and he said he hadn't heard anything either. So they're both, to be the kind of the cynic of the show. I think they're really waiting for the CBA to see what it looks like. There could be a world. There could be a world. I'm not saying this is what's going to happen. There could be a world where the CBA gets reconstructed. They figure out whatever. Baseball's back in 2027, and maybe they sign, a Stevenson and Lodolo to a short-term deal. Maybe. I don't know. I think they're really kind of waiting for how it's going to look like in negotiations and whatnot. And we're already getting a bunch of little things here and there about salary cap, salary floor. Manfred's talking about how the owners are going to really go all the way fighting for salary cap and whatnot. So who knows? We're still early stages. There's going to be a lot of press conference type sound bites that are going to come out here and there and everywhere. And then also, the players union is got a different organizational leader. So we'll see what he starts to say in press conferences and whatnot. As far as I know, Bruce Meyer is not much of a talker. He's more of a guy that wants to get in a room and close the doors and have them drawn out negotiations. I don't know how much he's going to be doing a lot of talking in front of cameras.
Yeah, I think the biggest fear with what's going on is, was in 1994 was, the argument behind it was a salary cap. And here we are, 32 years later, and contracts are even more outrageous. So, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. I'm just saying, like, from the owner's perspective, which I'm not saying they're right or wrong, that's their contracts they give out are strictly on them for giving them out. They don't have to pay those guys. That's what they're doing. It's checks and balances, but if they went to strike in 94 over guys making, $4 or $5 million a year, and here we are 32 years later, guys making $70 million a year. It's I fear that the strike could potentially be an outcome, and I don't think it will be. I'm not saying it will be. I fear that could be. The fear is the Reds have a year like the Expos, and we could strike.
Yeah. Although I am with Carrick, as long as we can get to the backfield in 2027 in March, I think I'll be okay.
I'll be out there for sure.
Yeah, we'll have to definitely try to meet up out there and see some guys and like I said, it's so crazy all the baseball's happening in just Phoenix. Obviously, the same thing's happening over there in Florida, a little bit more spread out there, I believe, in the Grapefruit League or whatever they call it. But yeah, it's just all baseball all the time out there. It's awesome. But any other thoughts about your guys not extending? I think I agree also with, like, I think Abbott and McLean are definitely guys they should prioritize to extend. I'm not sure about Lodolo, though. I
think he's going to be a little pricey if he has another good year.
Yeah, and that I think they might play out the string of player control with him and arbitration and just see, thank you for your service type of thing. So, or trade him before he is out of team control.
And that's my take is that they find a way to trade him this year with Hunter coming back, with Williamson coming up. They have replacements for him. And I'm not saying that they're better. I'm not saying that at all. But let's just say you're fighting for a wild card spot as opposed to the division. Maybe you could get away with, especially if Lodolo's missing time with blisters again, and you can get a decent trade out of him. Like, maybe you can get a legit prospect, but I don't know. It would just depend on how well Williamson's doing in AAA and how well Louder and Burns are doing during the season to really dictate that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. My hot take, just to cap it off, is that the mayor of Cincinnati should declare the Friday after opening day a day off, and nobody has to go to work that day.
Yes,
because everybody's going to be there or thereabouts of the game, whether they're at the game or outside the game, or whatever. They're going to have a good time. And then, opening days for the last 10 years or so has been like Thursday, right? So then just make a long weekend out of it, and
can we make it a federal holiday while we're at it?
Yeah, sure. Why not? We'll see. If there's no baseball in 2027, it'd be kind of a useless holiday. So,
well, it'll be an in memorandum.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be good. It should be good. But yeah, one last comment Carrick got in here. Williamson and Lauder and Burns are on limited innings. Yeah. Like he said, I think you have to be out of it to get rid of Lodolo now this year. We'll see. We'll see though. There's a lot of baseball to be played, a lot of things to be decided from here till opening day as well. So we'll keep it all covered here on the Red Hot Reds, Cincinnati Reds podcast for at least the Major League Ball Club on Sunday nights, but debuting Monday, Minor League Mondays. Check it out. Our debut episode is tomorrow. It's not going to be live, so you guys can be in the chat, but we won't be. I think probably responding if anything.
But we can hang out in the chat.
Yeah.
We won't be responding live.
Yeah.
On video format anyway.
Exactly. But check it out. It will be live on the 23rd and thereafter for Minor League Mondays. Dedicated, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to the Reds minor league system. So check us out, subscribe, like, hit the notification button so you know when we go live on YouTube and X and all that good stuff and Instagram. So we really appreciate everybody tuning in today. Ricky, if you're ready, let's sign off. Go Reds.
Go Reds.